Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Good afternoon and welcome to a special broadcast called AQSA is Calling. We are coming to you live from our ITV studios here in Sunninghill, Johannesburg, channel 347. This is a special broadcast because for the last week, our sacred masjid, Masjid al-Aqsa, has been coming under attacks from Zionist settlers. These settlers who want to unsettle the community of Sheikh al-Jah and of course continue its occupation of Palestine, an occupation that is now moving into what will be its 80th year. We have a full program today for the next 45 minutes. Up next, I'll be speaking to Yusuf Chikdei and Nazim Adams with regards to the pickets that have been happening in Cape Town and Johannesburg, respectively. From 3:45, I will be in discussion with UDM leader General Bantu Holomisa. And from 4 o'clock, you at home, our loyal viewers, have an opportunity to call us and give us your views on what is happening in Palestine. But let's go to our guest, Yusuf Chikdei. He is from the People Against Apartheid and Fascism, and of course the national coordinator of the Palestine Solidarity Alliance. He is no stranger to ITV, Mr. Nazim Adams. Assalamu alaikum, gentlemen, and thank you so much for joining us.
To be with you for us.
No, it's an absolute pleasure. Okay, I see we have Nazim. Nazim, you are still at the picket at this moment. Just give us an idea of how the mood was, the atmosphere, and of course the memorandum that you guys had, of course, wanted to give to the Israeli Trade Center. Were they willing to accept it, or was the resistance coming from them?
Yeah, no, there's no memorandum for the Israelis. We don't recognize them. The memorandum is going to be on Saturday at the motorcade when we go to the Gauteng provincial legislature. But for today, we've had about 50, no, maybe more, maybe about 60, 70 people that spontaneously joined the picket. At any given time, people were obviously glad to be able to voice their opinions, to share their thoughts, and to give solidarity to the people who are suffering from Jerusalem to Gaza. So it's a message from Sandton, from Johannesburg to Jerusalem, to say that you are not alone, and that the Palestinian people and their struggle are close to the heart of the South Africans, and that we will do whatever it is we can to end this tyranny of the Zionist state.
Yusuf, I'm going to come to you and welcome to the show. Yusuf, how was the atmosphere, of course, in Cape Town and the picket that happened there?
Well, it was a beautiful day, and people came out. It was lively, it was animated, and it was full of song. There was a march also. There were different groups who participated in the picket of the Palestine Solidarity campaign, coordinating grouping, Cape Peninsula University of Technology, from District 6 to Parliament, and the picket took place. There was a group of students who beat the drums around there. There were songs, there were slogans, and one of the slogans what was very different this time, as from previous times, was the Biruh Bidam Netfika Ya Aqsa. You know, that rang very well through in front of the parliamentary gates. There was a revulsion. People came together and coalesced and assembled to express their revulsion at what is taking place in Palestine, in Al-Aqsa, in Sheikh Jarrah. And that came out very clearly, and the slogans and the posters reflected that. There were also very strong statements around the lackluster approach from the South African government towards the atrocities and the human rights violations and the war crimes committed by the Israelis. And there was Martin Jansen, part of the leadership of the PSC. He read out he made a speech and he commented on that. For now, over to you, and I can elaborate more.
Brother Nazim, I want to come to you. We've been speaking on the show. I remember the series that we did along with a good friend of ours, Abdullah Rifat, of course, I think he's part of some of the protests that have been happening also. It's quite simple. It's time for the South African government to act, because these atrocities, these crimes against humanity needs to be stopped.
100% for us. So we will be issuing a joint statement from a number of Palestine solidarity organizations. It's called the Joint Memorandum, and it's calling on government to do more, to take decisive acts. And what are we saying is that South Africa needs to be an apartheid-free zone in every aspect. So we shouldn't be trading with the Israelis. We shouldn't be allowing South Africans to go and serve in the IDF without them being prosecuted for war crimes and crimes against humanity. We're calling on the government to take South Africa to the ICC and support the campaign to bring justice for the Palestinian people. But mostly we're asking for a just resolution, an end to the killing, a respect for all religions and all faiths, and a stop and a total stop on the bombing of Gaza and the killing of children, and lifting of that siege so that people can live like all of us in dignity. So this is where we're at. So Saturday we will be dropping that joint statement off at the provincial legislature. There are a lot of other activities. The students are coming together. There's a protest at the Israeli embassy. And I know some of the UJ students are also planning something for the 20th or the 22nd. So alhamdulillah, South Africa's response has been positive. And we can only do what we can. And inshallah, Masjid al-Aqsa, Jerusalem, all of Palestine will be free.
Ameen, Thuma. Ameen. Yusuf, I want to shift it to you. I think what's important there is that the solidarity across South Africa and how grateful we need to be and how privileged we need to be that in a democracy like this, there is an opportunity for our voices to be heard.
Yeah. So interestingly, the speed at which we had to respond to the war crimes in Palestine, we organized it from Sunday onwards, and there was very little time to give permission. There was a strong need. So what I did this morning, I tried to speak to the police to tell them, listen, there's COVID, there's all these, the maze of bureaucracy that we must go through. And they told me that they've got other people also in similar positions. And so they were very reasonable, I thought, in allowing us to express our right to protest without the necessary city council permissions. And in fact, it's a transport and everything else. But fortunately, it worked out because people were highly disciplined in this. Their focus was on the Zionist atrocities and the apartheid Israeli state, and so that went well. I just want to add on to what Nazim is saying in what needs to be done. So there's been the usual false narratives of it's Hamas blowing rockets and that's why we're attacking. And that's one of the narratives that need to be changed. And thank you for ITV for providing us an opportunity for that. But the media is going to need to play an important role. We must, the words clash, the words conflicts, the words that we are, that there is symmetry between a nuclear-powered fourth largest army in the world versus a caged population in Gaza, in the West Bank, in Jerusalem, occupying, colonizing, terrorizing, being tyrannical about what they're doing. They're demolishing homes, evicting people, restricting their freedom of movement, violating their dignity, their house, their persons. These are the narratives that must come to the fore. And the Hasbara, and I just couldn't believe what I was hearing over the BBC and the CNN trying to spin a narrative around Hamas and everything else. So the media is a very important one that we need to address. And thank you for tackling that. But in terms of what South Africans can do and must do, we must support the BDS, the boycott, disinvestment and sanctions campaign. And they complain that Hamas is sending 2 rockets while they're killing 20 people, including 9 children. Now, if that is a problem, for heaven's sake, give Hamas precision rockets so that they don't target indiscriminately and where it falls, it's useless. But let's not be distracted by that. So I think the one thing that we need to do to support the BDS at the very least. The second thing is, in addition to what Nazim is saying, at an international level, exercising South Africa's diplomatic muscle at the UN and calling for a permanent convoy to investigate the violations of the crimes and apartheid crimes, whether it's in Kashmir, whether it's in South Africa, and whether it is in Palestine or anywhere else in the world, the discriminations against certain sections of the population, which South Africa provided an example of the world of how we need to combat that, is something that we must scale up at an international level. And we're asking the UN to appoint a permanent envoy on that. We're asking the UN also, our government should also ask them to ensure that the Israelis are investigated again, as the Palestinians have done it, and as the Palestinians have told us about the conditions under which they live. So that's the second thing that must be done. The third thing is we must expel the Israeli ambassador because they are a front for spawning the views of Zionism, recruiting agents for Zionism, as documented in WikiLeaks. We must expel them and not treat them with kid gloves at the airports and at the persons that they are allowed to go across overseas, at the ease with which they can travel in South Africa on the one hand, and on the other hand, restricting Palestinians, banning Palestinians need to have visas to come to South Africa. That privilege, against the privilege that the Zionists have to travel freely without visas to South Africa. And that is one of the key demands, immediate demands that we must put to our government. The arms sales must stop. The trade and industry must stop. We've seen the horror with which they are exploiting in the recent Clover case, what they're doing about there. The funds that are going from South Africa to the JNF, to the Jewish National Fund, which supports the expulsion of people and the building of settlements in that area. In Al-Aqsa, there is a plaque there to thank the South Africans for contributing money to the expansionist policies of Zionism. And those are all the incidents that we must bear in mind and keep and pressurize South Africa to reverse, and for people to be punished for that.
Yusuf,
thank you.
Sorry, Yusuf, I'm going to have to cut you there. Brother Nazim, I've got just 30 seconds for you just to close off. What next now for PSA and BDS in trying to make sure this message does not fall on deaf ears? Brother Nazim? I think we've just lost Brother Nazim there. Well,
okay, assalamu alaikum. For us, we're going to need to do something major. We have to occupy and change the mindset of government, but also of the media in this country. So inshallah, look out, we will be organizing protests. We will be going to the DERCO offices and hopefully to the media houses as well to say, guys, stop painting a false negative. It's as clear as daylight. This is a genocide. And speak truth to the powers and to the friends that you have in Zionism, and start making a change, because we're not going to leave it. We need to make a change. The Palestinian people deserve a better life.
Jazakallah, gentlemen. I'd like to thank Yusuf Chikte from the People Against Apartheid.
Just a quick one.
Okay.
Just a quick one.
I give it 20 seconds, Yusuf. Just 20 seconds,
Just a quick
please.
one. There's a rolling mass action. It's a small commercial. There's another meeting, another march, a bigger march tomorrow in Cape Town to Parliament. And we call on everybody to join us there at 10 o'clock at the in District 6 CPUT campus. Thank you.
Well, there we go. Whoever's in Cape Town, whoever's in Joburg, you guys can make, of course, contact with Brother Yusuf Chikte from the People Against Apartheid and Fascism, and Nazim Adams, the National Coordinator of the Palestine Solidarity Alliance. Well, we'll be back after the break, and we'll, of course, be continuing the show, and hopefully we'll be able to get UDM leader General Bantu Holomisa. Stay tuned. Welcome to a special broadcast here. AQSA is calling right here on ITV Networks channel 347. Now we're going to give an opportunity to you as the viewers to give us a call, to tell us, to give us your feeling on what is happening right now in Masjid al-Aqsa, what is happening right now in Palestine. But bear in mind that, of course, this is a very, very emotional topic. And as a Muslim, we should all feel emotional to what is happening to an important Haram Sharif of ours. But of course, we need to be mindful that when we do go ahead and call, that we need to just be aware of what we are saying, because I think it's important for us to not mix two aspects, anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism. Of course, the Jews are people that, of course, were the followers of Musa alayhi salam, and they are people of the book, and there are Jewish people that are going ahead and supporting the Palestinian people. And of course, there is the band of Zionists that are wanting to cause carnage and commit continuous atrocities to the people of Palestine. So we do need to bear that in mind. So the number on the screen, 010-054-5736, 010-054-5736, and you have an opportunity to go ahead and call us and, of course, give us your view on what is going on right here. And I think what's important to note about this is that we've got people staying in Sheikh Al Jarrah, and all of a sudden you've got these illegal settlers coming in and forcing people out of their houses. You've seen that on social media. You've seen what is going on. And I think what's important about this is that we need to be mindful that this is something that happened right here in South Africa when, of course, colonialism set in. From the years of 1652, when the Dutch and the English came, they kicked out the indigenous people of our country. And that's what's happening in Palestine. And this is something that is happening for close to 80 years. And I think, you know, when we ask the international community, when people beg the international community to go ahead and really take action with regards to that, unfortunately, it is falling on deaf ears. And this is, of course, something that needs to be taken up. It needs to be, you know, looked at in a very different way, because this atrocities against Palestinian people cannot continue forever. So again, the lines are open for you to go ahead and call us and, of course, express, you know, your concerns and what the South African government needs to be done, because the South African government has a huge role to play in making sure that the international community stands up and takes action against Israel. Again, reports that were coming in is that the Israeli government, the ruling party of Benjamin Netanyahu, has said straight it is up to the courts. So basically what the Israeli government is doing is just saying, well, we're not really going to worry about this. The courts need to go ahead and take action. And of course, what we've seen in apartheid, that the courts generally tend not to favor those who are oppressed. So it's sort of like a hiding to nothing with regards to what is happening to the Palestinian people. But what's very interesting is that a few weeks ago, of course, I had a brother called Abdullah Rifat, and he represents the Al Mizan organization. And the Al Mizan organization, of course, allows people to go ahead and represent the oppressed Palestinians in the Israeli courts. And I think that is very important, that we need to have a voice. Remember, the ANC was, of course, built on a number of lawyers, you know, the likes of the late Nelson Mandela, Walter Sisulu, Governor Mbeki, and so on. And they were allowed to obviously go ahead and give an opportunity to represent those who were oppressed. So this is, of course, happening right now in Palestine. And I think it's very important that the voice is given with regards to the people. And again, what is important is that, you know, it doesn't take a religious person to figure out what's going on in Palestine. What is happening in Palestine is an oppression to people that just continues to go head on and head on. And we need more people, especially in South Africa, especially those who suffered during the time of apartheid, to take heed of what is going on, because every single year, especially on the last 10 days of Ramadan, it seems as if these Zionists or these IDF soldiers, all they want to do is go ahead and just continue its oppression of the people. Go ahead and affect Masjid al-Aqsa. And of course, you know, it's a dream of everyone. If you haven't gone, of course, to Masjid al-Aqsa, it's a dream for every single person to go ahead and visit Masjid al-Aqsa. And of course, visit the other harams in Medina Sharif and Makkah Sharif. So we pray and we continue to make dua that liberation can happen. We've got a phone call. Caller, assalamu alaikum. Okay, we don't have a caller. Looks like the caller has just put down. So I think that is really, really important for us to go ahead and make sure that our du'as continue. So, well, we have General Bantu Holomisa, who's on Zoom, just to, of course, continue this conversation. General Holomisa, good afternoon, and thank you so much for joining us here on Quds is Calling.
Good afternoon. Thanks for inviting me.
No, it's an absolute pleasure. And of course, I had a 2-hour series with General Bantu Holomisa last year on Truth to Power. So if there's a man of political wisdom, it's always the General himself. General Holomisa, you fought in apartheid. You took the apartheid government head on. What is the UDM stake with regards to what is happening in Palestine at the moment?
Right now, violence must be condemned in the strongest terms. Secondly, you are correct that I witnessed the apartheid structures in this country, including their security forces, both in central government and in the homelands. But I don't recall any day where the security forces had attacked the places of worship. So for that one, which I've seen on video, it looks like it's even worse than the apartheid forces. However, the problem of Israel and Palestine is well documented. We all know that. But as long as the USA is allowed by the international community or countries at UN Security Council to veto anything against Israel, there will never be a lasting peace in that country, in that area. I would suggest that the new president of the USA, President Biden, should possibly take a leaf on what Mr. Mandela was trying to do to bring all the forces together. But just not only to have coffee and tea, but aim to have a lasting solution. In doing so, President Biden can also review all the decisions or resolutions rather, which were taken by the Security Council, which should have been implemented many years ago. Then we will test his commitment to the multinational politics of multilateralism.
General, and I think you've just hit the nail on the head. It's up to the United States now to take that stand. But it's not just them, it's the rest of the world community. So what more needs to be done in order for this to happen? Because you've seen the videos, and Masjid al-Aqsa from a Muslim perspective is a very, very important place. It's an important place also for Christians because this was the house that was built by the prophet Jacob. And of course, the prophet Solomon expanded the masjid. So it's a very, very important sacred place. So attacking it just shows that this cannot go on for much longer.
Well, you are asking what steps should be taken. I would suggest that the South African government, through the foreign policy, their international relations department, should instruct their representative in the UN Security Council to wake up by possibly lobbying the US representative and other members of the Security Council with a view to have a snap debate on the issue and take a resolution which would immediately call for the international security forces to go and quell that issue there or intervene. But someone has to take a decision. We can't just be sloganeering about the whole setup. And action must be taken. Like we did here in 1992, you will recall when we had the violence, the so-called black-on-black violence. I accompanied Madiba after he requested me to go and address the UN Security Council to send monitors to monitor violence in South Africa. And those monitors did a good job. So why international monitors would not be going to Israel and Palestine and try and find a solution?
General Olamisa, a lot of people have been calling for boycott, an absolute boycott against Israel. We saw that in South Africa, and slowly but surely it kind of hit the then National Party quite hard when this boycott became more severe. Is that something that the international community should be looking at, and do they have the nerve and the guts to go ahead and do something like that?
Well, I'm not sure about the effect of that. We witnessed here in South Africa, there were sanctions which were imposed on oil, on IT, but many countries still collaborated with South Africa, including Israel itself. So I'm not sure if that will be effective, but I think we have passed a stage where we can only rely on one weapon. We need to go out, full out as a country, South Africa, speak with one voice to protect the interest of both sides in Israel and Palestine, as well as to make sure that here in South Africa, we are united in the sense that we say there must be a peaceful resolution in that part of the region.
Well, we'll be coming back after the break. We will be continuing our conversation with General Holomisa right here on Quds is Calling. Stay tuned. Welcome back to a special broadcast called AQSA is Calling. We are coming to you direct from Channel 347 on DSTV, ITV networks. I'm still in conversation with UDM leader General Bantu Holomisa. General Holomisa, thanks again for staying with us. You spoke about what South Africa needs to do, and of course, the ruling party, which is the ANC, a liberation movement, who, of course, were one of the organizations that took the fight to apartheid head on. What needs to be done from the government's perspective in order to make sure that there is a voice that is heard, and that this issue and the continuous stopping of genocide and the crimes against humanity on Palestinian people comes to an end?
I guess the president has already spoke, I think yesterday, if I'm not mistaken,
yes, he did, yeah.
When he was addressing the state, the country. He did make a reference to condemning the violence in that part of the world. But they have tools, they have means. How I wish that the International Relations Department, as I've suggested earlier on, that they could escalate this to UN Security Council. I don't think that they have any other weapon which would stop the current violence. There might be long term to say, all right, we close borders, we are not going to trade with you. But you know the level of corruption in this country, that even if they say so, the following day, the aeroplanes will be landing here, bringing technology from that part of the world or coming to do business through our porous borders. So the shortest route now is to escalate this to Security Council and speak directly with the president of USA. You know, what I miss is Madiba's style of leadership. Because Madiba wouldn't wait for all these protocols. He would have picked up the phone and spoke to the Prime Minister of Israel or spoke to Biden and say, this nonsense must stop. And he would also call for the Palestinians people to say, please, let's have a cessation of hostilities. But we lack that leadership here. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and I think that's the most important. You know, as you know, the late President Nelson Mandela said, South Africa cannot be free until Palestine is free. General Holomisa, one final question to you. Do you see an end to it? Because I think everyone wants to see a free Palestine. Everyone wants to see an end to the violence. But when you look at it as a seasoned politician, can we see a resolution happening very soon?
Cessation of hostilities can can be reached quickly if there are strong voices calling both sides. But at the same time, that cessation of hostilities must be followed by a roundtable discussion. This time around, with a view to find a solution. If there are people who are occupying the land which doesn't belong to them, they must go back to their places and then discuss whether the two-state option is the best or you want one country. Remember here, we've got a good example in South Africa. We were at war at one stage. South Africa was balkanized. You had the so-called separate development policies for Africans, for English, for black South Africans, and then policies for white South Africans, colors, and Indians. But when we decided to sit around the table, we found that there was no much difference amongst ourselves. I've been to Ramallah, I've been to Israel side, and I've seen that the Arab people are also found on the side of the Israelis. Why do you carry on killing those one on the other side? It just doesn't make sense.
General Bantu Holomisa, the leader of the UDM, we'd like to thank you so much for making the time for us and, of course, sharing your political wisdom.
Thank you.
No, it's an absolute pleasure. There we go. UDM leader General Bantu Holomisa, of course, just stating out there has to be talks. But the question we have to ask ourselves is, can there be negotiations? You see what is happening, of course, with regards to the videos that have been circulating on social media. And unfortunately, it just seems like the security forces of the IDF just don't seem to want to have the will to sit on a table and negotiate. And unfortunately, this may be something that continues for quite some time. So we hope and we keep making dua that something will be able to happen with regards to this. So again, if people want to call, the lines are open and you can go ahead and you can express your views on what is going on with regards to what is happening in Palestine and of course close to Masjid al-Aqsa. 010-054-5736, and go ahead and please do share your views with regards to what is happening at this very moment. And again, you know, you see the videos, and just last night again, you know, rockets were launched into Gaza just to sort of, as they say, rub salt into the wounds. And I think that in itself just shows that we have a fascist sort of run military style government that just wants to continue to pillage and make the people of Palestine suffer. So we have to pray, we have to make dua. And as you can see, the brothers I had earlier on, of course, Yusuf Chikte and Nazim Adams, these solidarity alliances, these marches can serve as just one part of the tool in order to make sure that the people can go ahead and do their marches. Again, the phones are open for you, 010-054-5736, and we hope that you can, of course, make your contribution. We have about just 4 minutes left with regards to the show closing, so we urge you at home to go ahead and make these phone calls and give us your views on what is happening in Palestine. So, again, as I mentioned, you know, these attacks in the masjid especially, is something that is really horrifying. It's something that cannot go undone, cannot go uncondoned. It has to be condoned. And we are in South Africa, of course, the people that experienced apartheid, just resolute to what's going on in Palestine. And I think we need to make sure that when the government has the will to speak, that government can go ahead and really make sure that freedom and dignity can return back to the people of Palestine. And I was just thinking the other day, you know, there was a good friend of mine spoke to me when he went, obviously, to Jerusalem. What is interesting is that a lot of the Orthodox Jews, the Jews of the Torah of Musa alayhi salam, Moses, our prophet, one of the most important prophets of Islam, you know, they also want a free Palestine because they understand that there's a difference between Semitism and Zionism. There's a complete difference between the two. And the Jewish people, there are a certain band of Jewish people a number of Jewish people that want that freedom to come with regards to Palestine. So we thank them for their continuous support with regards to supporting the struggle for the Palestinians. And there are the people, of course, who see that, because do remember from 1939 to 1945, there was a Holocaust that took place, and close to 6 million Jews were executed, were killed at the hands of the vile Adolf Hitler, the leader of the Nazi Party. And we of course read the books, we see pictures of what had happened, and these are the Jews who of course experience it right now. Those who survived the Holocaust, who see what is happening in Palestine, and they can see the similarities between the two. So I think it's for us as human beings. It's not a religion, it's not race, it's none of that. It's us as human beings that need to take the initiative and make sure that we can go ahead and continue to condone what the Israeli government is doing. Well, that's all we have for you here on Quds is AQSA is Calling, and we appreciate the time that you have made for us here, and inshallah we hope to see you again, same time, same place, right here on channel 347. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.